What is that?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Machtails from the Cantina Live, episode number 59. On tonight's episode, Machtails from the Cantina show producers are here for a roundtable discussion on the first half of season 1 of The Acolyte.
Jedi business. Go back to your drinks.
Grab yourself a beverage, smoke if you got 'em. I am your show host, Chris Macht, and we are live inside the Wampa Cave. Let the tomfoolery and hijinks begin. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mocktails from the Cantina Live. Got a great show for you guys today. Could be a little controversial, according to Rotten Tomatoes. This show, which I respect Rotten Tomatoes highly, they've been around for a long time. On the tomato meter, this show that we're going to be discussing today has 85% rating, but the fan base might be the lowest. The audience score might be the lowest of all Star Wars projects, TV shows, and movies. We're going to get into that. We're going to keep it positive, naturally, because that's what we do on the show. But we cannot avoid the negativity. We need to acknowledge the dark as we celebrate the light. Speaking about celebrating, producers are joining the show today. These guys make it rock and roll creatively and financially. Unfortunately, Matthew Rooney had a power line fall on his car today. Thank God he was not in it, because we might have had to cancel the show because we might have been, let's just say things could have gotten really, really bad. I want to send you guys to Patreon, of course, and I want to share Brother Rich Brendel's shirt that he just got. You guys get shirts at the producer level. You guys get to join the show. You get to write the show, create the show, whatever the fuck you want to do. Become a producer like the guys today. You can also join free for a week and have access to everything. We're going to be giving away that long overdue Jim Bloom autograph this summer. We'll get to that eventually. And I'm excited that Brother Rich Brendel, Suds, Cody Moore, and Brother Brian Klein are all joining the show tonight. Remember, drink responsibly. This is a 21 and over show. And the drinking word of the night is Jedi. And man, am I a sucker for the Jedi. And that is one of the things that I love about the Acolyte. You give me Jedi and lightsaber, I don't care how much the writing isn't getting loved by, let's say, half the fan base, maybe more. I think for me, lightsabers and Jedi are A+ in my book. That is probably going to be the unpopular decision of the night. But going on to a more positive element of the show, Brother Rich Brendel is here for a cheer and a beer. Brother Rich, are you drinking a
Hey,
glass?
yeah, got myself a vintage PBR glass tonight. So a nice little PBR goblet. Actually got this at a rummage sale, and it's like old school. It's very, very heavy, but I love it, and I'm drinking a PBR tonight in it, so.
You don't have to worry about that glass breaking easily on you.
Yeah. Which is great because I'm a bigger guy and I do get tipsy. So I break a lot of glasses, but these are awesome.
All right, Brother Rich, there's been some negativity in the fan community for a while now, but especially I feel like the Acolyte is even parting the fandom Red Sea even a little further. So what kind of light can you shine on us tonight during the cheer and a beer segment here?
Yeah. Doing a cheers tonight to unity. No matter if you love it or you hate it.
Hey, amen.
We're still brothers in the Force.
Amen to that.
It's fiction. Who cares? So,
Exactly.
Unity.
To unity, man. To unity. Now, in that goblet, was there more than one beer? I feel like you usually drink it a little faster than that.
Oh, no, it was about this. It's one beer. It's
just heavier.
Yeah.
It is Pride Month. June is Pride Month. I want to just happy Pride Month to all my friends and family in the LGBTQ community out there. We are going to be talking Acolyte tonight. I do want to say one thing as well that I've noticed with a lot of the fans out there. Look, this is Star Wars. I've been a fan since a film came out on my birthday when I was 2. Maybe I'm lying too. Maybe I had seen it for the first time in 78. But here's the thing. I've been a fan since the original trilogy. I've never seen a Star Wars live action project that I've disliked. And I want to say something very, very unpopular. It got me in trouble when Kenobi came out. But Star Wars fans, to me, sound like Cubs fans in 2017. They just won a World Series, and they're calling up, bitching and complaining about the postseason the next year. They should have been still fucking celebrating the fact that they had won a long overdue World Series. And what I'd like to say to Star Wars fans that are getting all worked up about a shows that they might have some expectations for that are not met. I was once told this. Calm the fuck down. Calm the fuck down. If you don't like it, don't watch it. That's all I got to say. I'm going to bring on my producers and find out what they have to say about this. Cody, Brian, Suds, and Rich, kind of want to go around the horn here. Starting with you, Brian. What is the one thing or things that you really enjoyed about The Acolyte? Has it met your expectations? Did you have it?
Pretty much so, yeah. I mean, it's not as Suds and I are in the same boat here, is that we've got a really strong background with the High Republic. I mean, we actually do a podcast about it too. And it's leaning a little bit towards that. It gives you a little bit more of the lore. So I'm liking that. I'm also not putting any full judgment on it until I've seen the whole thing. So far, I've been whelmed, if you want to quote my friend Zuhair. It's just that you can't judge anything until you're fully done with it. There's a couple of nitpicks I've had, but other than that, I'm enjoying it. I mean, I rewatched the first couple episodes a few times. The action has been great. The fighting, it has been, what I thought it was going to be, and I've been liking it. So
your nitpickiness, is it coming because of your knowledge from the story before?
Somewhat, but also, I mean, my main thing too is like, and hopefully they explain it, like, why did the fire kill all of the witches? What was that cause of that? They were all laying there in that room dead from what though? The fire didn't kill them. So,
well, right.
But that's the whole thing. But other than that, it's just sort of like I've been, it's the story has been unfolding the way I thought it would. Sort of, it was described as sort of like a murder mystery whodunit. And in the Star Wars work, but I'm like you. There's been no Star Wars thing that I haven't enjoyed or found some. I mean, you know me too. If I find anything that I like, I focus on the positive anyway. So if I don't like it, then, and to quote one of my favorite bands, 311, fuck the naysayers because they don't mean a thing. So
yeah, and if, like you said, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And Brother Brandon Wolgast, who was very vocal on the Patreon page, is unable to join us tonight. But he had made an observation that it just said he really enjoys the mystery element of this show. Mm-hmm. We haven't really seen this much mystery in a Star Wars project since Attack of the Clones, really.
Right.
And I like that element about the show as well,
the thing I think this has most going against it, it's the first project really, I mean, ever in Star Wars that we have no basis so far from the start of it if you've only watched like the live action stuff. So, I mean, literally, it's when Ki-Adi-Mundi showed up in the last episode was the first character you've probably seen that people are like, I know who that is. Everyone else is like, it's full cloth new, except for, and then one of the characters from Master Rowe, Ernesto Rowe, is from the High Republic novels and comics and stuff. So, did Chris? Oh, I thought you froze up there. You were just staying so still. I thought you froze.
Yeah, he's just carbonite here.
So. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it gets you talking, but the people that have no basis to it from beforehand are sort of maybe just like, I don't know. But I think that a character like Jedi Master Saul was very much already an intriguing character, and you can see why, he could be a focal point of the show. So. Yeah,
Saul is my favorite character. I mean, to me, he's really he kind of captures what the Jedi are all about, and maybe there's a connection to. I remember going back to these new characters, right? Rogue One had new characters, but the story was familiar, right? Obviously, Vader was old character, but there were a lot of new faces in Rogue One.
Right, and, but you knew a basis of the story, though. You knew sort of the little things with Mothma and Bail and stuff like that. It was all this is basically just like, you're dropping it in. There's Jedi, and there's the Republic, and let's see where it goes.
Suds, how about you, man? What was the one thing that you liked about this show right from the get-go? And has it met your expectations?
Well, I'll deal with the expectations first. I really didn't have any expectations really built up in my head because I've done that in the past with content, and it creates difficulties for me in enjoying this stuff. So I really didn't build a lot of expectations up in my head, but it dealt with an area of the Force that I don't know what it says about me, but I find the dark side of the Force and all its aspects just endlessly fascinating to me. To me, it's been, quite the interesting ride. All the, like the Bane trilogy and Plagueis and Darth Vader, and it just. It deals with an aspect of the Force that I find intriguing. Haven't seen too much of the dark side per se as we're used to it. Myself being an original trilogy generation, to me the dark side was red lightsabers, Force choking, Sith lightning, and this and that. You haven't seen any of that, but what you have seen as I've gotten older and read more of the written material is the dark side is those things, but it's also subterfuge, working from the shadows, and mystery and misdirection. And this series so far has had all of that. So that's really been a positive for me so far.
I think the key word you said there was that you did not have expectations. And
no.
I remember when Rogue One came out, I was kind of, a little grumpy. I'm like, we got a film score without John Williams. And I got to tell you, the film score, the music in The Acolyte, I think is so... It's so close to John Williams' themes without ripping it off. It just feels like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you know, that the first 4 episode score just dropped a couple days ago, like on Spotify and Apple Music. And all
I had just seen that. I was really excited about that as well. But no expectations. That's why I went into Rogue One, and here I am thinking, wow, this is one of my favorite,
right?
Not the favorite Star Wars films.
You like Rogue One?
Yeah, I'm shocked.
Just a little. Cody, you haven't been on the show in a minute, man. Welcome back to the show. I do want to hear what your take on the Acolyte was. Did you have any expectations? Have they been met? What do you like about this show so far? I know we're only at the halfway point.
Yeah, I didn't have, I guess, really any set expectations going into it. I was just excited to get more of the High Republic, or I guess more insight into the Jedi Order during that era, and to actually see visually what they'd been describing in the novels, especially with like the dress code, the aesthetic being more gold and light colors rather than brown. It's been kind of cool.
You feel like that is being interpreted properly, accurately.
Yeah, like a lot of the cover images or the art that is out there for the High Republic for the novels and like the concept art books. A lot of that has been translated, it looks like, to this show in a good way, and it's I'm going to be interested to see what makes them kind of change over time too. So I'm wondering if this show kind of clues us into what makes the Jedi go a little more conservative over time.
Yeah, I don't know if they can necessarily do that this season. I don't know. You guys probably know. I'm a little oblivious sometimes to the big picture. I don't know if they're planning multiple seasons for this show.
Yeah.
Leslie Headland said that she has planned 3 seasons worth of stories. Whether or not that actually ends up happening, sure, obviously will remain to be seen. But I do remember reading today, in fact. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season kind of ends up unfolding given that plan.
But Cody, you bring up a good point. You want to see it play out, and I think we want to see that with a lot of these Star Wars stories. I personally want to see everything continue, regarding of whatever kind or whatever level of backlash there may be. I had this vision today. The people at Disney are releasing these episodes, and they're just sitting there, maybe having a couple drinks, whatever, and they're just laughing at the fan community go fucking apeshit. Mm-hmm. Going, hey, look what kind of fire we started with this episode. Look what, I really don't think they. Now, sure, everybody's human, right? You can only take so much criticism. Whether you're a professional athlete, a professional actor, whatever, we're all human. We all have certain levels of our skin that we can handle. But at the same time, I think whatever stories they want to tell, they're going to tell, regardless of the outcome. Rich, what was it about this show that you liked the most? And did you have any expectations going in? Are you the odd man out with a lot of expectations on this show?
I went into it kind of just not knowing what to expect. I actually really like it so far. And the one episode that a lot of people had a lot of hate towards, episode 3 of it, I thought that was the best. I watched that episode like 5 times. I think that it really kind of going along with what everybody else has been saying, or some other people have been saying. I appreciate that it actually enhances the lore of Star Wars. Some people don't think that it enhances it. They feel like it terminates it. A lot of the haters out there, specifically because of the twins not having a father. They're like, wait, that's an only Anakin thing. I
want to. Don't mean to interrupt you, but I am going to add to this. Brother Brandon Wolgast had made a point of, apparently there's some fans out there that are saying that the story of Anakin has been downplayed. being the virgin birth, if you will. And if you think about it, Palpatine told Anakin about Darth Plagueis creating life. So, the more I hear about this hate, another thing too is that Kiade Monday talked about, okay, I get it, they fucked up on the birth year. Okay, something was out of line there. But the fact that he had mentioned that the Sith had been extinct for a millennium, there nobody said anything about that. There were necessarily specific Sith in the Acolyte.
No, and they still haven't.
Right. The word Sith hasn't even been uttered.
Yeah, I have a theory that it's not going to be mentioned at all.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think it's going to be mentioned at all. Going along though with what like a lot of the hate and what a lot of people are saying from a counseling perspective, we have this thing that there's a term that we use a lot called maladaptive thoughts. It's a very common term within cognitive behavioral therapy. And what that is kind of set beliefs that we've had based on our experiences that might not be accurate. And even like from, I'm a religious guy. In the midst of Christian counseling, there are maladaptive thoughts about God. And I really feel like in the fan community, there are maladaptive thoughts about Star Wars. Like the idea Anakin is the only one.
Mm-hmm.
That's challenged. That's causing pushback because that was a set belief about Star Wars that so many people had before. And they don't have the openness of mind to respond well to when those things are challenged.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like I'm going to bat for Star Wars again because I want to. Because like Brian said, he's a little older than me. He's from that generation.
I'm not as old as Suds, though. Suds is older than I am, so.
Suds, you're even older than Brian.
Yeah.
I just feel like Brian, like we said, that we both agreed upon, there has not been a Star Wars, I got to say live action, because as you guys know, it's no surprise.
Yeah.
That I'm not grabbed strongly by all the animated shows.
You really ought to give the Bad Batch a shot, though, and I think Cody can back me up on this.
I hate it, and Brother Brandon Wolgash says the same thing. If he sees something that he might not necessarily love in Star Wars, I think it was what was the name of that other show? Not the youngest children's show, but the other was it the Resistance? Was that what it was called?
Yeah, that was bad.
A clusterfuck.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was the one that was a victim of them changing everything with the sequel trilogy.
And the animation style was bad too.
But Suds, were you out
the writing? I think one of the reasons why Resistance sucked so much. I mean, somebody was arguing like Filoni did that too, so he's not perfect.
Well,
Resistance
he came up with the idea.
It was such a rush show. They had to have something in there to fill in between the movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys were not
like how the holiday special was. They had to have something to fill in Star Wars back then.
Wait, hold on.
I want to put this out there now because I think it's something we haven't discussed, but it's one of the precursors out there is that this show was getting a lot of negative reactions way back before anyone even saw a clip of it.
Yeah.
Because of Leslie Heslin.
Yeah.
Because of the person that's a showrunner, because she is, quote unquote woke. The term woke in itself is some of the people that backlash against that or fight against that. Pretty much in my mind, woke means everyone has it's an equality thing. It's not like, oh, you're woke because you want to represent everybody. Because I remember seeing someone that after the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte's like, oh, I guess there aren't any white male Jedi in this era. Like, that's been represented so much, and it's a little microcosm. And then what do we see? We see 2 white male Jedi there. So
Yeah.
Everyone just needs to shut the fuck up, first off.
Yeah.
And just let them, don't have these pre-existing prejudices because of the person. Yes, she did, sort of get egged on and I wouldn't say dug herself in a hole, let's say Heslin, but where she's coming from, it's just like she's already getting, like pushed to the side before anyone even sees anything. And people, I remember Rotten Tomatoes was getting negative fan votes like a minute into it was released because people were just review bombing it because of they're like some of them were even like 1 star. I haven't watched this, but just because Leslie is in it, I know it's gonna suck.
Right.
That's just stupid.
Yeah, and I'm gonna piggyback on that a little bit. People are touting the Rotten Tomatoes audience score as one of the reasons why this sucks, which is like, why don't you kind of decide for yourself?
Exactly.
Two, there's another piece of content. I don't know if it's a movie or a show that just has the title Acolyte, and people were review bombing that too.
Yeah.
So that tells me that they're just shitting on it to shit on it without even seeing a single frame of the series.
And it's the same rhetoric over and over again, the same through point. It's basically just it's ridiculous, like mind hive thinking that they have that what they're gonna do is gonna. I think if anything more is that this show has been getting a lot of press out there, which is actually, I think, benefiting, like Chris is saying, is like after each week, it's getting talk, whether it's bad or, I mean, what's the old saying? There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah, there's no.
You're getting all this free talk about it, and people are saying they're even showing like the numbers for it are doing really well. I mean, again, they don't disclose all their information, but I think that there isn't going to be any of one of these things unless it's like watching Mando season 2. When we had that one was just, oh my God, here's Bo-Katan. Oh my God, here's Luke. It's like this. There's really going to be nothing like that except for, maybe if Yoda or Yariel Poof or Apple Rancisis. We already saw Kiadi Mundi.
Yes, bring on Yariel Poof.
We know these guys are around because they were around before this in the Republic or in the High Republic. So, but I think it works on its own merit. Yeah. But people aren't giving that because it's like, oh, there's no Skywalker, there's none of this. I don't care about it. Well,
yeah.
Then I would just say just leave that, fine. But there's no reason, like Suds was, and I was going to bring it up. People are just review bombing anything that says the word Acolyte in it because it's related to it. So that just basically negates the argument.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It really kind of takes the validity out of it. I'd like to backtrack a little bit about some of the nitpicks that people have had about the series, specifically the virgin birth kind of diminishing how Anakin was brought into being. And in my mind, it's not exactly the same because with Anakin, there was no direct action by another Force user to create him. It was certainly alluded to in Revenge of the Sith that kind of wink, wink, nod, nod. He even discovered how to influence the midichlorians to create life. And then we're meant to think back to Shmi in episode 1 saying, there was no father. I can't explain what happened. But it's never been covered in canon, but it has been covered in the Plagueis novel that it was theorized by Plagueis himself that the so-called chosen one being born without a father was in direct response by the Force to the machinations and the dark science and everything that he and Sidious were doing. So it's not exactly the same, and in my mind doesn't diminish in it at all, because May and Osha were created by Mother Anaisha Anisha, is that how to say it? And this Anakin was created by the Force itself. So to me, that kind of kicks it up a notch.
And like you were saying too, they've alluded to in the past with Star Wars, with the Night Sisters, they've never alluded, like said that the anything other than they're in the same situation as what these witches were. So
right.
It's again the things that they're focusing on, which is what they're like saying is what's wrong with it, has already been introduced in Star Wars in a lot of ways. So they're focusing on something that shouldn't be, but it's just to sort of,
But the fucking hate that people have, I strongly believe that it blinds them. That's
right.
something.
It's a pre-existing thing, though. It's not from. I would even the things that they sort of jump on, and it's almost like they have after the show gets done, they have like this chat group for everyone that hates it and said, these are the things we're going to jump on for this episode. Yeah. And then you look at it like, okay, whatever, dude. Yes, you did watch it, but it doesn't mean that you watched it with an open eye, other than just saying that you were going in there looking for, these are the people that might like it, 85% of it, but they're going to sit there and beat that 15% to death. They'll everyone know they didn't like that 15%.
Brother Brandon Wolgast made a very, very strong point. I agreed with it. I brought it up to Brother Tyler Page today. He said, he doesn't necessarily agree with it, but I'm paraphrasing here. Brandon had said that there's no reason why the hate for this show should be this strong, because it simply is. It's not a bad show. He said, if you are anti-LGBTQ, if you're a racist, then that would fuel your fire and hate for this show. I kind of see a little point of view there.
You can kind of say that, but also at the, to kind of play devil's advocate.
Statement too.
Right? Yeah, no, but kind of play devil's advocate here. Lucasfilm execs, Kathleen Kennedy specifically, they don't help themselves when they go out in public and say, well, the hate is out there because of, toxic fandom and male hate for female characters, and
they're kind of fueling a fire.
It's like, well, hey, why don't we just, there's a fire, let's take some gasoline and pour it on there, regardless of whether or not it's true. Okay, because there's like you said, there's a certain segment of the fan community that was just going to shit all over the Acolyte simply because of Leslie Headland and who she is in her personal life, and also who she's worked for. We've all seen, if we go to the Rebel Force Radio Facebook page, I'm not going to say specifically by name, but there's an RFR listener that was very vocal about not watching this show simply because Leslie Headland used to work for Harvey Weinstein and she was his personal assistant. And
how many people in the entertainment business used to work for Harvey Weinstein?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Exactly.
You can't be guilty by association for everything.
Right. And it's not even like a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon situation. It's, you can go at most 1 or 2 steps away from Harvey Weinstein. And if you use that as kind of your criteria for not watching content, you're not going to watch anything.
No, I mean,
for the next 30 years.
If it was proven that she was someone that was sort of like, I don't want to use the word, like she was the one that was sort of like helping his behavior along.
Yeah, if she was complicit in it, that's another story. But that hasn't been
and she's
proven.
not even been brought up and stuff like that. So it's just like people find, like I said, they find the littlest things and then they use those as focal point. It's like that with so many. I feel today across any kind of fandoms or everything, the divide is getting bigger depending on whatever you're talking about. And it's always like the one side that focuses itself on the hate of something always focuses on the littlest things, but it's a rallying point, or it's a focal point, and it's sort of just like, why are you're just all you're doing is you're not making sense with a louder voice.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Cody,
Chris.
I want to ask Cody. Rich, go ahead.
You said before about Brandon saying, that it doesn't make sense for all the hate to exist, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, like it's not the show itself. It's the unity. It's the unity and the diversity behind the show.
Yeah,
it's such. You make a good point too. Like if Captain Kennedy is out there, slamming the male community. Hey, look, I feel offended by that because I love the female characters. Yeah. So for her to like make a blanket statement about white males, I'm like, well, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
I'm an ally of all this stuff. I love all this shit. So for her to throw me under the bus and make a generalization, she is becoming the very thing that she is swearing to destroy, which is so true. I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I know too, like I did on the latest Machtails podcast, I want to make a statement about that. There's a lot of fans that were there during the prequels that weren't on social media because there was no social media. They were in the streets or in the bars or whatever. Look, George Lucas is not a racist. He married a black woman. All the voices that you hear in episode 1, they're not stereotypes. There's a whole story on the Nemodians. But for them to put the Nemodians in the Acolyte and change the dialogue because it sounded Asian, that is offensive to take the Asian voice away from the Nemodians. That's almost a racist move on their part. So we need to be very, very careful on both sides, the fans and Kathleen Kennedy, on
But you can't expect every Nemodian to sound the same. I mean, look at us. We got 5 white guys here. We all have different.
Yes.
I mean, none of us.
Yeah,
and everyone could have. So when they did that, I think it was sort of just like they were sort of in a catch-22. If they made them sound like that, then there was going to be people that were going to say, "Oh, they went back to that racist Asian thing," and now it's like, "Oh, they had to change it. What's wrong with them? Were they kowtowing to the people?" No, people sound different. It's not like they came in there and they were ending up sounding like Ewoks or something.
I mean, we all sound different today than we did 10 years ago.
Yeah. Here's the other thing about the Nemodians. Maybe I'm stupid and just unobservant, but when the Phantom Menace first came out, I didn't really notice all that much about the way they talked. I just saw, I was like, oh, look at these cool aliens. Until someone
says something about
it. Yeah. I didn't realize it until somebody pointed it out to me, which is really kind of stupid if you ask me.
Right, it's a rally point, everybody gets behind it, and then it just turns into a big fucking smoldering fire at that point.
No, it's the same thing as it is now, where it's like they take one little thing and everyone just builds it. I was just excited when I saw the Nemodians in Acolyte. I'm like,
yeah, it's like, holy cow, it's Nemodians.
I was too. Now, Cody, I do want to ask you, how are you taking the negativity about this show that you hear online? Is there anything that you've heard from the fan community that we have discussed? And what are you kind of doing to, I guess, stand up for Star Wars here in this kind of situation?
I mean, I enjoy almost all of Star Wars for myself, regardless of what anyone else says, or what reviews say it beforehand. And then this, I feel like, should help point out to a lot of casual fans, maybe, or ones that just watched the movies and have kind of gotten in on Disney Plus shows, that sometimes the fandom is kind of a little bit, I don't know, resentful and split. That there's this loud minority of people that will review bomb and do stuff to grab attention, but that it's not really reflective of the material. Because we're 4 episodes in, and we haven't even talked about the show really so far.
Right,
but
yeah.
we're 4 episodes in, and the only thing I have is more intrigue and questions about all of the characters and more desire to see what I've been seeing. So
Yeah.
to me, they're doing what they need to be doing.
Yeah.
I just let the material speak for itself. I feel like,
Yeah.
especially when you're only most of the people that got early reviews of the show. This is as far as they saw too, and they were really excited. A lot of the people that I know that wrote reviews, this is where they left off. So a lot of people going to this next episode kind of in the dark like we are, and really excited to see how this duel plays out.
But see, all those people, according to the haters, they're all paid Disney shills. Because
Yeah, they're shills. Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, you're on Disney's payroll. You must be like.
Well, Jimmy Mack is. I mean, Jimmy was even kind of. He's. They put the episodes out to the shills, but I think he's saying it more tongue in cheek than anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it all comes down to if you have negative intent from the beginning, you're gonna find something to bitch about, and it's easy to do that. It's like very easy to do that.
It's like the 5%. You like 95% of it, but you're gonna sit there and tell everyone how much it sucks because that little part you didn't like, and then meanwhile you're sitting there rewatching it 3 times, but you can't. You have to save face by not going back there and saying, you know what, oh maybe I was wrong, because you're already on your platform. You don't want to get knocked off that soapbox. So.
That's actually what I was thinking about. After the end of that last episode, I was wondering how many people are going to tone down how loud they're being, because like that end of that episode has me excited. I feel like this episode's going to pick up with the Jedi broke up, having to duel this Sith, jumping around, maybe wiping half this group out, and that's going to be intense. I
saw one person on one of the pages who was a vocal guy, and he was just blasting the show for weeks. And then after the end one, he goes, "Now it really made me mad because they killed Kalnaka." And it's like, why do you care? You don't even like the show.
Yeah,
you're showing that you care about a character.
Really
Exactly. I'm like, I'm not going to call you out on it, but other people did, and he just like stopped responding because it was like, ooh, you just showed your true face there, buddy.
I don't know, Rich. I want to ask you from a counseling standpoint. Do you feel like when the negativity, in this case, let's talk specific, this show, I feel like. Well, the Star Wars fan base was negative before this show even came out. This show comes out, the negativity side of the fan base goes fucking wildfire. Do you think that it is more easy to get behind negativity? And do you think if you're going to support a show that is not popular amongst the negative fans, that you might not really want to speak out against it? Or do you think there's a side where people are like, you know what, I don't want to waste my time with the whole negative thing, because like Cody said, the way that it's playing out, they're doing their part. He likes the way, we all like the way that it's playing out. There's some things that we want to see happen. We got to give that time. I personally don't think that's going to happen in the next 4 episodes, because what we all talked about, what we want to see play out, I felt like if we saw that in the next 4 episodes, it would be too rushed. Yeah. But my question, I guess, is negativity louder than the positive fans out there?
It depends on how you respond to the negativity.
Right.
Like, if you go into it, like, I love when I go to a movie expecting crap and I actually kind of enjoy it. So like when I watch movies, a lot of the times I'm like, yeah, say as much bad stuff about it as you want, because that'll make it more of an enjoyable experience. Like, one movie that I remember thinking that about was, X-Men Apocalypse. Like, there was a lot of hate about that ahead of time, a lot of bad reviews, but I'm like, but this is X-Men, and I'm going to go into it thinking this might be crap, but I'll be happy with if it's entertaining.
You kind of lower your expectations, if you will.
Yeah, it lowers my expectations, but at the same time, if you go into it expecting crap and looking for crap, you're going to find it.
Yeah, like you guys had said, yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think like, back in, gonna get slightly political for a moment here,
Uh-oh.
but
Hey, it's Machtails. You can talk about
back in the days. I mean, it makes me think maybe there's like some QAnon board somewhere that hates Acolyte, that kind of thing, and everybody's getting all this crap from that. You know what I mean?
It's all a conspiracy.
Yeah. There's Star Wars conspiracies out there.
Yeah, Star Wars conspiracies.
I think a thing that we have, most of us here have a positive outlet is like with our Super Friends chat.
Yeah.
It seems like everybody on there likes it and can talk about it. And then we all had the same response that even though I'm a member of the RFR podcasting group, I have not subscribed. I'm part of the RFR Facebook page. I don't go on there like maybe once a month to look quick. And it's always just like, oh my God. Okay, this is the reason why I stay away, because it's so negative.
Yeah. But
everyone, and then some of the people now are even saying just like, I feel bad for Tyler because he's got to stay on there because he's a moderator. They've asked me, and I'm just like, I'm not even going to do that because I don't want to be involved with that. And then just seeing some of the stuff that you guys like, Suds will post something that is critical of someone's way of thinking because it's so negative, and then they come back and blast you, and you're like, you're not getting my point here, buddy.
Right. Yeah. And I've kind of stopped doing that because it almost kind of started dimming my view of the show in general, just because it's like you hear so much noise about it, and it gets in your head.
When you turn on a new episode, you're like, this is that everybody fucking hates.
but it's. And I know who you're talking about, and I'm not going to say
no. We gotta get anyone's press on.
Yeah, I'm not going to give this guy any press, but he just went right after me, and then he got personal, accusing me of raising money to go on my next vacation. And I asked him, I said, "What are you talking about?" My theory is, he was looking at the fundraiser I did for my birthday for Rancho Obi-Wan. And
he thought it was you wanted to get people to go to Rancho Obi-Wan.
It's like, dude, you don't know.
Because the hate blinds people.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't know who the fuck I am and, what my background is and what I do for a living. And shut up.
I do feel that certain people's perspectives that are influential impact other people that are a little bit more naive.
Right.
There's one region of the country where one fan that I'm thinking we all know, I'm not going to mention his name, but
we
kind of runs the show. So like, if he hates, everybody else is like, oh, that's terrible, And the thing is, that steals people's joy.
Let's get in because we're coming up on the hour. I want to get in some more things that we liked about the show. I know that the budget.
I want to say one thing there's one thing that I'm so far pissed that it's halfway through the show. And we have not seen Vernestra Rowe use her light whip yet.
Yeah.
We talked about it. It was like, come on, because she's got a lightsaber that she can turn into a whip. And it's been like that in the High Republic novels and comics and stuff like that. And they even said it's going to show up in the show. We're halfway done. Where is it? Although she hasn't been fighting anywhere. She's in political stuff. So
she really hasn't left the Jedi Temple.
So
the first time they showed that Jedi Temple, the very, very first time, and I love the fact that it's Jedi Temple, Coruscant. It's so in line with the prequels that I love so much. The first time they showed the Jedi Temple, I'm like, holy fuck, they're going to show Yoda. And we have yet to see Yoda.
I think that'll be season 2.
He could do something because even like he's around in the High Republic, and I remember at the first phase of High Republic, he was sort of like on he's there, but he's like on a sabbatical from the Jedi Council. He's off doing his own thing right now. So he's there, but it's just sort of like, we'll see. Well, I don't think they want to focus too much on the fact that we know that there are characters like that here because it diminishes, like, even with like that, with Kiadi Money showing up for a second, just like, whoa, okay, that took me out of it for a second, and then I had to rewind because I wasn't listening to what was going on because I'm just like, there's a Syrian. Is that supposed okay? Because even when you said something in our one chat for the podcast, Suds, I'm like, I didn't think so at first because he looked a little different and he sounded a little different, and I'm like, well, it is 100 years before we see him in the Phantom Menace, so
Yeah.
change. So
Yeah, and I'd also like to address. There was the one other nitpick, and I know we're coming up on time, so I'll do it real quick. But since Brian mentioned Ki-Adi-Mundi, that was the other thing that I kind of responded to on the RFR Facebook page is people were pissing and moaning about the fact that Ki-Adi-Mundi's birth date was previously shown to be 93 BBY, which means he couldn't possibly have been alive and the other thing. When you go to the Wikipedia page that everybody was quoting, it was on the Legends tab, which means it has nothing to do with on-screen canon or new Disney book canon, nothing. You go to the canon tab and all it has is his death date, which was 19 BBY during Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
Yeah. That was determined before 2012, you know?
My complaint about, okay, Brian, I know his voice sounded different. We talked about voices changing, right?
Yeah.
His head was a little bigger, right? So it looked like he got leaner as he got older, which does happen. But I was like, fuck. Silas Carson should be portraying him. He portrayed him in all of the prequel trilogy. But then I find out that Derek Arnold, who played Pow in Rogue One, portrayed him, and I'm like, okay, Rogue One alumni portrayed Kevin. I'm cool with that.
So it kind of put the salve on that wound for you.
It did. I was like, okay, this
and sometimes you give the people crap for that, and it also is like he may not have wanted to do it. He may have been involved with something else at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It shows like he's in these big British television shows right now, The Gold and Midsummer Murder. So he might not have been available to do it. So
yes, he was always a very big, busy actor, even during the prequel era. So maybe his availability, maybe he had the Hugh Corsi syndrome where he's like, hey, you want to bring me back? It's going to cost you more money.
Right.
It could have been a variety of factors. But the fact that we're seeing him, it looks promising that we're going to see eventually other Jedi. We saw the same, his species escapes me, but we saw the Plo Koon race in episode 4. That was not Plo Koon because that birth date, I don't think Plo is that old. I think they would have made a bigger deal about that.
No, he's not.
I don't even know if there was any speculation, but he was definitely in the background.
They're probably about to be one of those victims in this next episode because they were in the jungle with that Sith, so they're about to die.
I would think too that in the next episode we are probably going to see a handful of deaths.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't even know if that guy's a Sith.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, and I'm
You
assuming,
know, like there have been so much.
You don't even know that it's a guy.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the mothers.
I think it's my prevailing theory is it's not Mother Anastasia because the figure in the mask was not tall enough in comparison to Osha. However, the Zabrak coral,
Yeah, that's what I think it is.
I think that's who it is. But again,
because she does the hand motion that she did in episode 3.
Well,
and it's a generic hand motion, but it's still kind of like, ooh, that's kind of
right.
I thought that was great that they brought that species back. You know,
Right.
I feel like there's
and that kind of ties to the Night Sisters too, because the males are Brack and the witches are Dathomir and stuff like that. So
I again, like Cody said, I like what I see. I like how it's playing out. I love the mystery behind the show. I love the fact that they're not afraid to ignite the lightsabers. Could we see more? Yes, but I think I've seen enough to say, wow, this is really cool that we're getting the story of Jedi. Again, I've shared this story so much. I fell in love with the Jedi during the episode 1. And they were on the council, and they never had any screen time.
No.
All those guys. Ki-Adi-Mundi maybe the most, aside from Yoda and Mace Windu. And it's great that they brought him back. So I'm excited to see how this plays out, and I'm expecting a cliffhanger. You guys have any favorite moments from the show to close out with? Anything that you were like, aside from the end of episode 4, that was like a holy fuck, I can't believe that was a total cliffhanger. I haven't had a Star Wars cliffhanger like that in a while. And I knew we were gonna see the credits as soon as we saw the dark, mysterious figure ignite the lightsaber. I'm like, okay, we're gonna be left in the dark here.
I gotta say, there was a funny moment when they were questioning. It was in episode 2, I think. Kamir, who was, I don't know if any of you guys have watched The Good Place, but the one guy that's May's like right-hand man who's getting him the stuff, who reminds me of Jason Mendoza from The Good Place. And he was like, who is he? And then he looks around and looks at the other Jedi, and he's like, I thought he was with you. He's like, no, not him. Like, because he was talking with, and by the way, I don't know if you noticed that Jedi Master Saul learned how to speak English so he could be on this show, because he was the main guy in Squid Game. And he learned how to speak English so he could be in Star Wars. That to me is probably one of the most amazing things I've heard about this series, is the fact that he learned English simply to be in this show, and he is able to, having just learned English, the fact that he's able to convey the emotion that he's able to convey speaking the language, to me just shows what a great actor he is.
Cody, any favorite moments that you really loved about this show?
I don't know. Not outside of episode 4's ending, not favorite, but just something I want to highlight at least, because it still just keeps coming back in my mind, is when May tried to actually attack Kamir. It seemed like he just handled himself way too well for how he's portrayed himself outside of that moment. So I feel like there's going to be some big reveal about him.
Rich, how about you?
He's more capable.
Yeah, for sure.
I think for me, the biggest part, honestly, was the part that a lot of people hated. The revelation that they didn't have a father. I thought that got me excited, because it does enhance the lore. I think that even though there's a lot of hate about it, if you were to go back a few years ago and say, hey, there's going to be this show that actually enhances on what Palpatine said about creating life being a dark side power, I would have been like, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. And that's what we got now.
I think one point that I want to bring up too, say certain things in Star Wars happening again, like the no father, the virgin birth, if you will. There's been other things that happened in the sequels that have happened in the original trilogy. Some people go, oh, well, they're just redoing the story, or they're copying it. If you think about it, though, isn't life, we all have like similar stories that we share. And I feel like just because it happened in Star Wars once doesn't mean that it can't happen again. I think it's very, very real about that, because yes, we all have unique individual lives, but at the same time, there's personal experiences that we've all had that we share with other friends and family members in our life that can relate to that because it's happened to them, or, they know something that has happened to. I know it's it's kind of a crazy analogy that I just threw down there. But what I'm saying is, just because it's been done in Star Wars before doesn't mean that it can't happen again and have it not be still
right.
original, right?
Yeah, how many times in Star Wars have they built a planet killing and destroyed a planet killing?
Are we counting the EU? Are we counting the EU?
Yeah. Between Star Killer Base, and
Star Killer Base, Death Stars 1 and 2, the Sun Crusher, the Star Forge.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. So
Like,
it's a good concept. So
yeah. Well, or think about the thousands of Final Order Star Destroyers in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Each and every one of those was a planet killer. So I mean, like you said, just because it's been done once in Star Wars doesn't mean it can't happen again. I think what people were getting hung up on is they were falsely equating it with how Anakin was brought into being, and it just, if you kind of peel the onion back a bit, it's not exactly the same thing, and it doesn't diminish it at all.
No, absolutely. You know,
it's like Star Wars echoes, and so does life.
Hey,
Yes.
what was George's famous phrase? It's like poetry; it rhymes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's not make any mistake either. That and another point that Brandon brought up as well that I want to echo on. He had said that George had showed that the Jedi were not flawless from Episode 1. They brushed off Qui-Gon when he brought in Anakin, for better or for worse. The butterfly effect with that story, we obviously know how that played out. But I feel like there's some things echoing here about the Jedi in the Acolyte that we had seen the same issues that the Jedi had in the prequels. I feel like there's a very, very good job that they're doing with the characterization of the Jedi way in the Acolyte that we had seen in the prequels.
Yeah.
I think a good example of that we see in Acolyte is the whole certain point of view thing. I mean, Jedi lie when it's necessary.
Right.
Obi-Wan did it, and we've already seen it in Acolyte too.
It wasn't a lie, Rich. It was the truth from a certain point of view.
Yes, the certain point of view.
Okay, was that supposed to be Obi-Wan or Trump?
Oh,
That kind of went
No.
like Trump.
it was totally the truth. It was the biggest truth ever.
It was the greatest truth ever.
It was the greatest truth, and we made the rebels pay for it. Okay.
Yes, life echoing as much as Star Wars is here. Hey, I got to thank all my Patreon members for tuning in. We heard from Dale Morris today, Boston Dan, all my show producers. God, I miss Brother Matthew Rooney here. I don't like doing the controls and talking and listening to you guys. It's a very challenging thing to do. And I appreciate everybody for hanging in there with me. I appreciate your points of view. Brian and Suds, please remind our listeners about your show. You guys have a Star Wars book-heavy podcast show, and I want to send people there for that. Can you tell us again where people can go?
Go ahead.
You go ahead. You're the boss.
It's on the Source Pages podcast group. It's called Sacred Jedi Texts, where we focus on the novels that aren't necessarily based off of stuff that they're going to be used. Our Source Pages, the podcast, we focus on comics and novels as primers for stuff that's out there, or continuations or adaptations, where this podcast that we do with Todd, myself, and my other co-host Haley and our friend James, we focus on right now we've been focusing, like I was going to mention it earlier, we've done already Revan, and we're doing the Darth Bane trilogy, and next one we're going to do is Plagueis. We have been focusing on the dark side. If you haven't, the Darth Revan book is seriously that novel is so good, it's not even funny how good it is. But it's basically, to go to either strandedpanda.com, which is our podcast network, or you go to our Source Pages page on Facebook, and we keep you updated. Our next podcast will be focusing on book 3 in the Darth Bane trilogy, which is, what's it called again? Dynasty of Evil. Yeah, that's the one.
Ryan, I don't know how the fuck you find the time for all that. Very, very busy. For you gamers out there, you can follow Cody Moore, Mole Walker, correct?
Yep. I'm always playing Call of Duty. I'm actually looking at maybe getting Dragon's Dogma 2. Looks like it's pretty interesting.
How's the fan community in the gaming world? Is it like the Star Wars world? Is it a bonding experience?
Yes, it's just as toxic. It's just as far ends of the same spectrum. It feels like some people can be really cool and really fun. You can make friends out of nowhere gaming, and then other people will just be, the worst individuals on the planet.
Hey, before we go, Chris, I want to ask Cody, is that Pochita over your shoulder? I can't tell.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That little orange guy that's Chainsaw Man's little devil dog.
Yep, right there.
And Cody, I do want to ask you, I know you are a very big fan of the Jurassic Park series franchise. Do you feel like the fan community in that franchise has negativity as well?
That one, honestly, up until this last movie, I didn't see as much negativity, but yeah, I kind of nowadays, I feel like a lot of things get more divisive the more people can communicate. It was kind of a blessing at first because you're getting more opinions, but then you're also, because of that, hearing more of the bad too. So.
Yeah, I think that is just, unfortunately, the world we've been living in now for a while, unfortunately. But I want to thank you guys for speaking your minds freely. I had a great time on this show. Hopefully I didn't piss off any Patreon supporters, but, you got to speak your mind and put the low dollar amount to the side. There is no low dollar amount when it comes to you guys producing the show, though. I could not do this.
No, you charge us a lot.
Yeah, really. So fucking expensive. I got to go look through my subscription. I made the joke once that just to give Chris some agita, I was gonna knock down my tier to down to the bottom tier, or just unsubscribe completely for like a day, just to fuck with him a little bit. But I decided that
April Fool's is coming up.
Yeah. You know what though? That's then I decided against it because that's really cruel. Yeah.
Did you say that one time? It's like, just because I'm a producer, he's actually making me work. It's like I pay to work on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, again, we had Tracy Boyd, filmmaker Tracy Boyd, on the podcast episode Machtails a couple of weeks ago, and he had described the variety of producers. Right, there's the financial producer, there is the creative producer, there is the producer that likes to be organized and more of a director. And you know what? We have that all here. And we also have a producer that is a master chugger. And you guys can always find Brother Rich Brendel on Mocktails from the Cantina Live. I wanted to send us out with some Robert Hines music, but I can't find all this shit that Matthew Rooney is so good at behind the board.
Okay, while you do it, Todd, you got to say it now. You got to say the Jimmy's catchphrase.
Oh, he won't get mad for trademark violation?
No, because it's in this episode. So.
Oh, okay. Puffer Pig in this episode. I don't do it quite as good as he does.
And of course, I did not get that reference because, Brian, that is from
Star Wars Rebels.
Star Wars Rebels. I watched like half of Rebels. Great show. Just ran out of time. We're out of time. I am your host, Chris Mock, and we will catch you guys next time on another episode of Mocktails from the Cantina Live. Remember, join Patreon, overpay like my producers, or just join the $5 level and support the show. We'll catch you guys next time.